We're both here.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Except I forgot to get water.
I have vitamin water. That's what I'm
Lisa,
working with today.
Lisa, can you do me a huge favor? Would you just put water in this cup for me? Because I'm live and I can't move and I need water. It's like I just walked the dog. Please. I'm sorry. But I can't, I can't get up and leave.
You can't even. You need hydration. No,
hydration.
Hold that thought would not be a good thing. It would not be a good thing. So we in our in-depth strategic discussions earlier, we thought we would do the 2 A's. Oh, AI.
I'm like, what? What's the other A? AI.
Appraisals and inspections.
Yeah, we've had. Thank you. Well, first of all, we can just start there. I mean, how about the market being so crazy that there are buyers just waiving appraisals and waiving inspections?
Well, it's price and terms, right? So they try and give the best price they can. And then there's other terms. The terms that they try to use to sweeten the deal could be, later closing date, a rent back, or yes, we'll waive our mortgage contingency or our inspection contingency. Probably wiser to waive, if you're going to waive something, the inspection contingency. Although, largest transaction of your life, you should still do an inspection. You just should. I just heard thunder.
So why would a seller, how do I ask that? So I was going to say, why would a seller, what do you feel as a seller you should know about inspections? Let's start with inspections.
Well, a seller should get I'll tell you what, a seller should have an inspection done before they go on the market.
Oh, yes, for sure.
A pre-listing inspection is a very wise idea. We haven't been able to get to them in many instances in this market because we're in such a hurry to get on the market, and knowing that the buyer has a conga line of people behind them if they flinch. But in most markets, it is just profoundly wise, if you're going to put your house on the market, to get an inspection done. Because what's going to happen traditionally is that the buyer is going to be all emotionally invested in this transaction. They're going to bring his father, his stepmother, his mother, his stepfather, 12 of her uncles, the whole Megillah, and they're all going to descend on this. And if anybody hears the word radon or oil or lead-based paint, or somebody gets triggered by one word they hear, the whole thing could tank because of something that could have cost $100 to fix 3 months prior had the seller been aware of it. Okay? Yep. So there's sort of like they're in love. There's this, they see the house through this vision, and then somebody snaps them out of it because, no, this is real world. You could trip and fall, or that could happen, or that could be a potentially expensive thing to fix, or, whatever.
Well, and then you have more control. I mean, I don't even know if sellers understand the what the results of what could happen with some of these inspections. An oil tank fails, it gets reported. A septic fails, it gets reported. And now you're going back and renegotiating, and your deal could fall apart. And even in a crazy market, everybody will ask you, why did the deal fall apart? And as the listing agent, you're not going to not tell them. And it may make other buyers wary. So now it doesn't matter,
I think sellers, though, I think they can get their mind around, okay, didn't know we had termites, big deal, we'll work on that. What the sellers don't appreciate, in my experience, is the whole death by 1,000 cuts. Overall, the house is fine. Overall, the house is great. Solid bones, the roof is not going to go for another 20 years, the heating system works, the electrical's up to date, everything is really fine overall. However, we found this picayune little thing and that picayune little thing, and the GFCIs in the kitchen aren't up to date, and blah, 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 blah. And you get this laundry list of things from this order taker buyer agent that doesn't have the backbone to say to their buyers, you're going to lose this deal over $250 worth of nonsense.
I go further than that. I mean, look, it is the buyer's agent's job to educate the buyer what an inspection is for. Unless it is a brand new construction property, no punch list comes along with the purchase. Okay. That's what that is. That is a punch list.
But that's what the seller's afraid of, is the punch list.
Well, but the buyers need to do it. Buyer's agents need to do this at their consultation, not wait until they're at the inspection or after the inspection or the day before the inspection. At that consultation, explain to them, this is for educational purposes only, and also to find out if any of the major systems have an issue, major plumbing, roofing.
How many buyer agents do you think actually have a consultation with prospective clients?
Well, that's why we're educating people here right now. So I hope
less
we
than
have
1%.
lots of sellers and lots of buyers. And buyers, if you're out there right now and you're working with an agent who did not even do a full buyer consultation for you, I would halt in your tracks. Oops. That's kind of like fiduciary. It's kind of like tortious interference with the contract. My saying that. Oops.
No, it's not. There's no specific transaction you're addressing, but I would say most consumers right now who are working with a buyer agent are learning things kind of by osmosis in like throwaway conversations that they're having as they look at houses. They don't have a formal written agreement with the buyer. With the buyer's agent, they kind of met the buyer's agent at an open house or at a showing. Met them through, they expressed interest in a property, somehow got connected with the agent. And, they're good enough to work with. They haven't done anything to alienate us. So we'll just keep asking them to show us properties. But there's no formal relationship. There's no consultation, and there's no education of the client. It's more like the agent holding on to the people's ankle for dear life, hoping that they're the one that gets the accepted offer for these people. I think that's more likely what happens in garden variety transactions.
It's so funny. I can never figure out why people will commit to working with a stranger, drive around in car, drive around for hours and days and weeks and months and years, and even in some circumstances. And really the responsibility on the purchase side is huge compared to the listing side. Okay. Because even the listing side has to be verified by the buying side. Okay. Yet you're going on to Zillow and like, yay, I got a stranger to work with. I have no idea.
It's because they have no idea of the crucial importance that a buyer agent plays in the largest transaction of most people's lives. They view real estate agents all too often as somebody who's just going to unlock the door. And I read somewhere they have to follow our instructions. So we're going to offer 85 cents on the dollar and they have to listen to us. And there's nothing about educating the client. There's nothing about the uncomfortable conversations about, the real stuff that has to be done. And unfortunately, that is why real estate agents don't enjoy the best reputation with the public. I think the public would do better.
But public, yeah, like, I don't understand.
Choose your agent wisely. So remember, it's not about appraisals and inspections necessarily, but remember the video I did, I want to say about 2 months ago, when I got yelled at by the buyer agent because they'd been outbid. And she scorched the earth. So the thing is, getting back to this, so there is an enormous amount of competition for properties. So the seller doesn't want to deal with a punch list, right? The seller doesn't want to be harassed over the fact that maybe there's paneling in the basement or something like that, and they just want the buyer to buy it as is. So this market is sort of a dream for a seller who just buy it as is, just take it as is, and they don't want to be responsible for any health and safety matters or punch lists. Okay. The inspection list, to me, by and large, health and safety aside, is a to-do list for the new homeowner.
It's education on upcoming maintenance.
Yeah.
So that you understand how to maintain this property.
Right.
And yes, absolutely. If there are major items, then yeah, we're going to bring them back to the seller because major items that aren't already reflected in the price. That's another thing that we don't. Oh, I'm sorry, somebody walked in. We don't.
Are you at work or something?
Oh yeah, let me shut the door. It's crazy here today.
I knew that she would leave the. You were just saying, I'm not going to leave you alone with no camera. Those are cute pictures. Thank God you left cute grandchild pictures there. So you weren't going to get up.
I was trying, but I'm such a control freak that if something happens in that room and I don't know what it is, so I got to keep the door closed. So it is a process to educate a buyer on the upcoming maintenance on their home. This is not a brand new construction house. It is a resale. And oftentimes price has been put together, if you have a good listing agent, that reflects the work that needs to be done. And even better, sellers, if you do your own inspection, you're going to get the pricing right. Because if you don't know about the this, and you don't know about the that, and you don't know about this, and at the end of the day, they end up, coming off when you renegotiate, you can end up with a lot less than you would have had you taken care of those items prior to putting it on the market. And we can go a step further. I don't know why the hell we don't order title before we put it on the market. I'll never understand that.
Because the attorneys don't want to incur the expense prior to
New York attorneys. Let's be clear.
Okay. So, of the sellers who are most likely to be sticklers for selling as is, do you think it skews older or younger demographically? The sellers that are most vocal about selling their property as is.
Younger.
Okay. Well,
you think it's older?
I think it's older. I think the older they are, the more likely they are to smack me in my head and say, and I'm selling it as is. And the reason for that is they've been maintaining the property for 10, 20, 30 years. And they're not interested in some young buck, some young wise ass's opinion on every picayune little cosmetic thing. And if they wanted to turn the house into a gorgeous, updated everything work of art, they'd stay there. That's why it's priced the way it's priced. And that's why they don't want to have to deal with the tick list.
I kind of feel like,
why do you think it's younger?
Because I feel like most of now we're getting into ageism. I feel like the boomers have such pride that they don't want to not fix things before putting it on the market, because they have maintained their house so well for the last 25, 30 years. So maybe if we just word it to them, hey, I suggest doing a homeowner's inspection, because it's impossible to know everything that's going on with the house, just like it's impossible to know everything that's going on inside your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they would all agree because of their pride of ownership. So I think we're saying the same thing, and it's really in how you approach it.
Life is much easier when you get a pre-listing inspection.
Much easier. And
right.
You just know what you're doing. But then on the flip side, I had a seller recently that was so overwhelmed with everything that they had to do. And then the inspector I had going out ended up with COVID and was sick for a while. And then it got so close to when we were listing it and I couldn't get anybody else because everybody's so busy. I just said, no, don't do it, because everything overwhelmed them so much that I know she'll deal better with whatever is going to need to be done when there's an actual offer on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So rarely would I make that decision, but I knew with the timing, had we got the pre-inspection done the month before, like we were supposed to, but when it was the week of, I knew in this circumstance, it wouldn't work. It would overwhelm the seller, but typically it would help. So that, listen, if you have a listing price in mind and you don't know that there's you don't know that you're supposed to have a vent ridge, and now there's, a ridge vent, and now you have mold in your attic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know that.
Yep.
Or
so how's the listing doing now? Is it still active, or do you have a buyer?
No, it's still active. It's $1.8 million, so it takes a little longer.
Okay. All right.
South Salem.
I got that. I got that.
2 showings so far.
How long's it been on the market?
2 weeks.
You know, you're not going to get the same crowd of people going through a $2 million house as you do through a 400.
No, I do I forgot, but when I do a listing presentation and anything over that hot price point, I do by price points, like how many houses sold between $1 million and $1.5 million, and then how many sold between $1.5 million and $1.2 million, or
so you give the client facts
of how many actual buyers there are.
Very
and
impressive.
The fact that if you have floor plans and a 3D tour and this and that, the higher end buyers are actually more accustomed to shopping that way. Because we've been doing it on a luxury market, that kind of stuff in the luxury market for like 10 years.
Yep.
3D tours, floor plans, that whole thing. They don't come out to every single house. They're not spending 9 weekends in a row most of the time. They do a lot of their shopping from their iPad.
Yeah.
Or their phone. So
they're not looking at 30 houses. When one comes up that matches their criteria, then they're coming out.
Yeah.
Has a certain kind of outbuilding or waterfront or whatever.
So that's a couple more things I want to add to the thought about inspections. Radon, basically as a buyer's agent, I have kind of defaulted to, if radon's a concern whatsoever, you should just mitigate, because first of all, the table in New York is so much lower than some of the other places. Like in Colorado, it is code for new construction has to have mitigation system in place from the get-go. Radon is a gas. So you can have none today, a whole bunch tomorrow, and then a little bit the next, like it's a gas. So it's not something, you're catching a moment in time when you do a radon test. So I suggest you test either every 6 months or annually, or just mitigate. You know, it's a $1,200 item. And for a seller, if a seller is built into rock, they might want to consider it. Because that's one of those things. It's one of those words that people like, oh no, I'll never buy that house.
Yeah, radon, buried oil tank, mold, black mold.
I think buried oil tank we've kind of gotten over. You know, as long as it will be removed.
That soil test is a tricky thing.
Yeah.
All right. You can have tens of thousands of dollars of work needed if there's a oil leak contamination. So, you know, you hold your breath when a tank fails. By the way, people, we don't do pressure tests on oil tanks anymore. We do vacuum tests.
Right.
All right. So we don't blow the seal. It's much safer. And when I say we, I don't mean real estate brokers. I'm talking about those who test.
Those who test.
Those who test oil tanks do what's called a vacuum test. And they have a little microphone in there and they listen for hissing. They don't pressurize it and cause a seal to blow or damage it. So get over the worry about damaging the tank with testing. And whoever came up with the idea of burying oil tanks to begin with was an idiot. Mr. Idiot, if he has more money than I do.
And then even worse than that, like my house that I own, not the house I live in, was built in 1995.
And they buried the oil tank.
Yeah, they started doing it again. It's fiberglass, so there's a lot less concerns. But they did. They came up with these fiberglass oil tanks, and they started burying them again.
Well, there is one tank that I think should be buried, and that is the septic tank. The septic tank should absolutely be buried.
Not under a concrete pad of a deck.
No, it should be buried, though. It should be below grade. It shouldn't be in the basement.
That's inspections. I think we kind of covered that from a buyer and seller perspective. You know, septic is a huge one, and oil. Those two, like, I would rather be in control of a negative result if I was the property owner, than have it be in a buyer's hands.
Get out ahead of it. Exactly. Get out ahead of it.
And then they start dictating you who to use, how to use, why to use, and because they're nervous. So it's understandable, but it's not their position. And now they're going to have input. So you should really try to take care of those major things. But then it sometimes is the little things that kills the deal when we're not in this kind of market. Like GFI outlets just make me like, really, just go do it now. Just go do it.
Yeah. Yeah. GFCI outlet.
Who's still trying to tell me, someone is still trying to tell me that you're allowed to have a dry well. And I'm like, no, you are not. Oh, but if it's for the lawn washing machine, it's okay. No.
Bad idea.
Very bad idea.
Bad idea.
So, all right. So appraisals, this has been the year.
The year of the appraisal.
The year of the appraisal issues.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere near as bad. I have to give banks a lot of credit. Banks, I don't know if like someone in upper government like had some sort of peps talk with banks, but they are being, I think personally, more flexible than I've ever seen. And I do think that banks have done a very good job with appraisals right now, or appraisers have, because this is a very sharp, like this is like making a left, you know,
this is a huge uptick in prices.
Huge.
So yeah, so prices have spiked. It's hard for things to appraise in many instances, and under appraisal is understandable because you're looking back at a lower priced market because the market has been rising. So that is tricky. Under appraisals, no one likes them, but the buyers, if they want their deal to go through, waiving inspection is one thing, waiving the appraisal is another. Buyers, if you want in this market for your offer to get approved, you're going to have to indemnify the seller.
In certain markets, let's be clear. In certain markets, we're not talking by territory. We're talking about price point and property class. There's not 90 million offers on co-ops right now.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that people aren't placing too much stock in an inspection on a co-op anyway. I think an inspection on a co-op is kind of a waste of time.
Right, but we're talking about appraisal.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. So with appraisals, okay, in that meat, in like the first time home buyers, 300,000 to 500,000, depending on where you are. And this is crazy because the median price in Putnam County is close to 400,000 for this year.
Yeah,
the buyers are going to have to be prepared to come up with the cash if it under appraises, and that's just how it is.
And I actually get mad at myself. Like I just got mad at myself for going, yay. It's just that, like, you know, Putnam's been like the underdog and the average sales price, and it's my baby, Putnam County.
My apologies. What you said.
That's okay. I already apologized, Siri, because it's not actually a healthy thing. The rate that prices are rising, and I raised my children here, and I'm concerned about affordability for where they will live. But still, it's still pretty cool to see Putnam County prices go up to almost 400,000. So it's a beautiful thing. Go Putnam. Go Putnam. Go Putnam. Very happy. And some other really cool things about this, like Putnam, if you go by statistics, didn't have a lot of diversity. Well, we're getting a lot of diversity. So many people came up from the city, and it is a much more diverse place to be. So that's another great thing that came out of this market.
Okay, well,
I like diversity. I grew up in the city.
Yay, diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, diversity.
So back to appraisals.
Okay.
So you're a buyer. What are you nuts? Why would I buy a property? Why would I overpay for a property? Why would I overpay for a property? Why are you advising me to overpay for a property?
Is it overpaying? You're underpaying for the money.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents paid 9% for their mortgage. You're paying 3% for yours. So the money's cheap.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, compared to a year or two ago, you may feel like it's overpaying, but we're in a market moving, we're in a moving market right now, and that's just how it is. And if everything is judged by bean counting,
right,
instead of the natural trajectory of one's life, then algorithms will simply rule our life decisions. And here's where I'm going with that. Back in 2009 or 10, I had an epiphany, and I wrote this in a couple of blog posts, that what would get us out of the crash was not lowering interest rates, not tax incentives, not quantitative easing, but simply waiting and allowing the uterus to do its thing. And I only say that half tongue in cheek because there are a certain percentage of people who want to start families. And you start a family not based on interest rates and not based on
exactly
the real estate market. You start a family because you're ready to start a family. All right. And there's a certain percentage of, let's just say, wives perhaps, who will go to their husbands and say, this is the year we're moving out of your parents' basement, and I don't care what it costs. I want to have a baby, and I'm going to have the baby with you or with somebody else.
And I'm not having your mother telling me how to change diapers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So people, if they want to move on with their lives, if they want to move forward, if they want to just put down roots and start living life, you cannot let every economic index determine your life decisions. It's really time to just, what is the cost of gas? Put it in your tank because you got to go somewhere. What is the cost of life insurance? It doesn't matter. You need life insurance. What is the cost of landscaping? I don't know. Figure it out because your neighbors are going to call the town code on you if you don't mow your lawn. These are just things that have to happen. You have to live indoors.
Right. Or you're going to end up like in the toilet paper situation with no toilet paper. You're not going to have a house to live in. But seriously, it's funny because we've never had this conversation, but that when I was working actively with buyers, I would use more like, here it is. Here's all the scenarios. And, this is a personal decision, not a business decision. So I can't make it for you. But just by using those words, saying this is a personal, not a business, always that helped them to understand, because there's so much pressure out there too. Like everybody's judging how much you paid and what you are. Oh, and you're so dumb. Why would you do that? So another thing that should be done at the consult, because if you don't do it at the consult and you only have this conversation with them, they're totally going to think you just want the deal to happen. Okay. If you try to solve the problems like the FAQ or, problems that happen all the time at the onset of these relationships, especially with buyers and with sellers, with both. So, when you're hiring guys, you want to make sure that you go through the whole consultation and that your agent brings up all the different scenarios. And even if it's a new agent, they have their brokers to lean on to understand some of these things and getting ahead of them. But with buyers, if you have the appraisal conversation and the inspection conversation at the consult, they trust you. If you wait until the day before the inspection or after the inspection, even more so when they give you the laundry list, and the same thing with the appraisal, you wait to have that conversation until they just think that now you want the deal to happen. They think that you have now, got your eyes on the prize called commission.
Yeah, you're working for yourself and not for them.
But that's not fair to them because, they need to feel like they can trust you. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if you don't have that conversation ahead of time, you are in it just for the commission. So,
well, that's why we encourage consumers to hire their buyer agent as carefully as they would hire any other contractor, any other person. Okay. And to look at the terms and not let your life be decided simply by digits on a spreadsheet and by what is best for your personal needs, perhaps your family's needs, your own needs, that sort of thing. Yeah. We got to live indoors. You want to live you're going to spend half your life in the place. You might as well, make sure you like it. And look, if you're going to be there 20 years, whatever incremental dip or spike there's going to be in the next 6 to 18 months, it's really not going to matter 15, 20 years from now.
No. Or are you going to spend the next however many years, oh, we got to watch the real estate market. Maybe we'll sell this year. Maybe we won't. Maybe we should. Maybe we shouldn't. It's the same as when you're purchasing. Like you cannot time the market like that.
It's not a stock
in your life.
Yeah,
No. Now listen, if you're an investor, this is a totally different conversation.
it's different.
But this is not a business decision for first-time home buyers and second-time home buyers. Now, look, a second home could be a business decision, especially now with Airbnb and all of those kind of things, all of those income earning opportunities, or more worried about future value. I understand that a little bit more when it comes to a second home.
I'm going to leave you with something that is sacrilege in some people's heads, but is absolutely a fact. The home you live in is not an investment vehicle.
No.
The home you live in, you can't live in your 401k. It's very, very drafty. Okay. The home you live in. Now, if you have a 10-unit building and it's an income property and cap rates, yeah, that's an investment. Right. The home you live in is no more an investment than paying rent, which is not an investment. The home you live in is not an investment. And people behave about it like it's an investment, watching all this stuff, and it's not.
No. And the fact is, no matter what, almost everybody, unless something happens in your life where you suddenly have to sell or whatever, typically, I've been doing this 24 years.
Wow, you're old.
It's probably like, I don't know. I'm afraid to throw a number out there, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's probably less than 5 to 10% people where I've seen like take a loss,
Oh, very rare. Very rare.
Very rare.
Short term around bad timing. Yeah. And usually when somebody has to sell that quickly, it's because of something that's a way bigger problem than their equity position.
Or just really bad timing, like that last crash, like getting divorced, like me, like getting divorced 6 months I think it was like 8 months after I bought the house, and the market crashed right then, and it was worth like $100,000 less than what I paid for it.
Yeah, that's always
it happens. But I'm here. I survived.
No, exactly. You're fine. You're fine.
All
right. So we've got to wrap this up now.
Yeah.
So we don't like punch lists. Get your house inspected. Carefully hire your buyer agent, and your home is not an investment. Okay. It may behave like an investment, but it's not an investment.
Not a business decision. Agreed.
Yeah. Take it away, Timothy. Good to talk to you, Jen.
Always good. We spent a lot of time together today.
Kind of did.
Talk.